When Mike was just 10 years old, he lost his parents. After that, he moved in with his uncle and was raised in his home. During high school, he became close friends with Sarah, and before long, the two were inseparable. After graduation, Mike decided to attend a trade school to become a mechanical technician, while Sarah pursued a degree in business administration at college. On the day she graduated, Mike proposed to her, and without hesitation, she said yes. By then, Mike was already working in the manufacturing industry, building his career. That evening, to celebrate their future together, he took Sarah out for a special dinner. "Mike, you know you're the only one for me," she said, taking a sip of her wine. "I want to be Mrs. Mike Carter, to be with you, to grow old together." She paused for a moment, studying his face. "But I can tell something's on your mind." "What is it?" "I know you too well. Something's bothering you." Mike reached across the table, gently taking her hand. "It's just that we might have to wait a little longer before we can have the wedding. Maybe 4 or 5 years. Sarah frowned slightly. "Why? What's the problem?" "It's my studies," he admitted. "I don't want to stop with just an undergraduate degree. I'm still young, and the sooner I continue, the better." One of the things Mike loved about Sarah was her ambition. "If you want to keep studying, I fully support you," he said sincerely. "You know I respect your decisions." Sarah's face softened into a smile. "Thank you, Mike. I knew you'd understand." She stood up, leaned over, and kissed him. "So, what field do you want to specialize in?" Mike asked. "Law," she said with certainty. "I want to be a lawyer." "That's great," Mike said, raising his glass. "You're going to be amazing at it. There's going to be a lot of hard work, a ton to learn, and plenty of sleepless nights, but you'll make it. And I'll be right there beside you." "Thank you for always supporting me," Sarah said softly. "I love you, Mike." She took a deep breath, then added, "But there's another thing. I'll need a lot of money to make this happen. I already took out student loans for my undergraduate degree, as you know." Balancing work and study at the same time wasn't going to be easy. "Life won't be simple when you're on your own," Jake murmured, gently running his fingers along Emily's cheek. She looked at him, concern in her eyes. "I know," she admitted. "I have an idea," he said. Emily frowned slightly. "What is it?" "Why don't we just get married now?" Jake suggested, taking both of her hands in his. "I'll work, so you don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of you. You'll have your own space, and I won't get in the way of your studies. Whenever you need time alone with your books, just say the word. You know I'm a patient guy, right?" Emily hesitated. "But, Jake, that's a lot of pressure on you. You'll be working for both of us. I don't want you to feel neglected or get tired of me." "Never," Jake said firmly, almost raising his voice. Then, softening, he added, "Emily, I could never get tired of you." Tears welled up in her eyes and spilled down her cheeks. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." 2 months after she passed her law school admission test, they tied the knot in a small, intimate ceremony with only close friends and family present. Jake found them a modest 2-room apartment just a few miles from Columbia Law School. Most of their furniture came second-hand from friends and family, and his old pickup truck proved to be a lifesaver when moving everything in. He turned the second room into a study, setting it up with a couch and a desk. To make commuting easier, he even bought Emily a bike. She'd ride it most days, only taking the bus in the winter or when the weather was bad. To make ends meet, Jake picked up a second job, working evenings at a gas station. His days started early, and by the time he got home from his first job in the afternoon, Emily was never there. She was either attending her classes or buried in research at the library. Most evenings, Jake would cook for the both of them before heading to the gas station for his night shift, which lasted until 11 p.m. It took him about 30 minutes to drive home afterward, and by then, Emily was either fast asleep or still up, studying. More often than not, Jake ate dinner alone before heading straight to bed. By the time I crawled into bed each night, exhaustion had already taken over. The only real time Lauren and I got to spend together was on weekends, but even that depended on whether she had a project due or a study group to attend. When her second year of law school began, things got even busier. She started working a few hours a week under the supervision of attorneys and attended weekly seminars. Since she had chosen to specialize in criminal law, she spent most of her afternoons and evenings at the police station, watching interrogations from behind one-way mirrors. During the break, she picked up a part-time job at Sullivan & Gumbold, a well-known law firm. As time went on, we barely saw each other. But we both understood it was all for our future. True to my promise, I never once interfered with her studies. I knew she needed space, and I was patient. After she passed the bar exam, Sullivan & Gumbold offered her a position as a junior associate. We celebrated by taking a week off and heading to Florida, our first real vacation since getting married. It was the best time we had shared together in years. During the trip, I gave Lauren a silver bracelet with a small L charm, a reminder of everything we'd been through. When we got back, she encouraged me to quit my second job. Not long after, I was promoted to supervisor, which meant I finally had more time to rest. But life at the law firm wasn't exactly what we had expected. The hours were brutal. If she wasn't working late at the office, she'd bring stacks of files home and lock herself in the study for hours, just like she used to when she was in school. Our weekends, at least, gave us some time to be close again. A year later, we decided to buy a house in the suburbs. Getting a mortgage turned out to be easier than we thought. On our first night in the new place, over dinner, I made a suggestion. As we sat down for dinner in our new home, I looked across the table at Rachel and said, "I think it's time for us to start a family." She sighed, setting down her fork. "Baby, I know how much that means to you, to both of us, but we're going to have to wait." Her response caught me off guard. "Oh, and why's that?" Rachel met my eyes, her expression serious. "I have a plan. One day, I want to make partner at the firm. I already spoke with William Sullivan about it." I leaned back, staring at the wall in thought. Without a word, I took a sip of my wine, letting the silence stretch between us. "I'll need to get my Master of Laws," she continued, reaching across the table to take my hand. I ran my fingers lightly over the bracelet I had given her. "You're going back to school?" "School and work," she clarified. "The firm is paying for my degree, but in return, I have to commit to working there for at least 10 more years. I let out a slow breath. "All right," I said finally. "If this is what you want, then I'll support you." There was a certain sadness in my voice, but I meant what I said. Rachel stood abruptly, walking over to me and wrapping her arms around my neck. "I know you will. And I love you for that," she whispered. "I promise, after this program, we'll start our family. And I'll make you a proud father." We kissed, and then I lifted her into my arms, carrying her to our new bedroom, where we made love with the same passion we had always shared. 2 months later, Rachel started her Master of Laws courses. Not long after, things began to change. We started feeling more like strangers living under the same roof. She would either come home late or shut herself away in the study for hours, sometimes falling asleep on the couch instead of coming to bed. Weekends were no different. She either had her nose buried in books or spent her time at the library. We barely spoke. We barely saw each other. And when we did have intimate moments, they were brief, rushed, almost mechanical. Most nights, I cooked dinner for just myself. She usually ate out, or if she was home, she'd quickly throw something together just for herself. But through it all, I stayed patient, just like I always had. Then, on our wedding anniversary, Rachel was working late. I decided to surprise her. I wanted to surprise Mark by bringing some Chinese takeout to her office so we could celebrate our anniversary together, even if it was just a quick dinner. As I walked toward the entrance of her building, a man dressed in a white shirt and black pants rushed past me, completely absorbed in his phone. He moved quickly through the automatic doors without even noticing me. In a hurry, huh? I thought. When I got to the elevator, the same guy was already there, still glued to his phone. I stood behind him, waiting. "Yeah, yesterday was way too rushed. I barely had any time with you," he said, his voice low but clear. "Today, I'm taking my full 45-minute break so we can actually enjoy ourselves." I smirked to myself. Someone's about to have a good time, I thought. "I'll meet you in your office, and we'll make the most of our time together," he added. It sounded like something straight out of a movie, an office affair unfolding right in front of me. The elevator doors slid open, and we both stepped inside. He immediately pressed the button for the 10th floor. I stayed in the back, realizing we were heading to the same place. "I'm in the elevator now. I'll be at your door in just a few seconds," he said, clearly excited. The 10th floor only had 2 offices, Sullivan and Gumbold on the right and a marketing firm on the left. My stomach tightened as my mind raced. The doors opened, and he stepped out. I watched in silence as he turned to the right. I felt frozen. My feet refused to move. The elevator doors were starting to close, but at the last second, I jumped out and turned left. Crouching down, I pretended to tie my shoe while stealing a glance in his direction. He had stopped in front of Sullivan and Gumbold's office and knocked. A second later, the door opened. I saw a woman's left hand reach out, grab the front of his shirt, and pull him inside. The door shut behind them. I just sat there, slumped against the wall, my whole body numb. Tears blurred my vision as they rolled down my face. I had recognized that bracelet. The silver one with the M charm. The one I had given Mark. And in that moment, everything, my life, my marriage, came crashing down. Sitting on the floor, I tried to make sense of it all. Had I failed her somehow? Had I made mistakes in our marriage that I never noticed? What did this guy have that I didn't? Was I not enough for Amy? After a moment, I forced myself to stand, grabbed the takeout, and walked back to the elevator. Meanwhile, on her drive home, Amy stopped at a Starbucks and parked. A heavy guilt pressed down on her chest. "Why did I do this?" she whispered to herself. "Why did I cheat on Jake?" She lowered her head onto the steering wheel and let the tears come. Jake was the kind of husband any woman would be lucky to have. He had always been kind, patient, and supportive. So why had she thrown it all away? Her mind drifted back to the day before. She had gone out for dinner at the restaurant next to her office building, feeling more alone than ever. It had been so long since she'd been intimate with Jake, and that growing distance between them left her feeling neglected. Then she noticed the waiter. He was handsome, charming, and gave her the kind of attention she hadn't felt in a long time. And in a moment of weakness, she made a reckless decision. She invited him to her office. They didn't have much time. It was quick, meaningless. She even took his number afterward, as if it had been something worth repeating. It was just a mistake, she kept telling herself. Just a brief moment of weakness. But today at work, she couldn't get him out of her mind. Jake had called earlier, checking in to see if she'd be home early. She could hear the sadness in his voice when she told him she'd be working late. The night before, she had avoided him entirely, pretending to fall asleep in the study. And by the time she woke up, Jake had already left for work, but not before making her breakfast. And yet, even after all of that, she made the mistake again. She called the waiter and invited him back. The second he knocked on her office door, she pulled him inside. They started kissing, hands wandering, and Amy let herself get lost in the moment. "You should remember this day, babe," he murmured against her lips. "Today, I'm gonna make you scream. Mark this one on your calendar." Her eyes flew open. Fear surged through her as reality crashed back in. She shoved him away, scrambling to find her clothes. "What's wrong, baby?" he asked, clearly confused. "You need to leave," Lena said suddenly, her voice sharp. "I completely forgot. I have dinner plans with my husband." She rushed to her desk, grabbing her phone and frantically pressing speed dial while pulling on her clothes. The guy smirked. "Come on, you could at least give me the same thing as yesterday." "I said leave," Lena cut him off, already walking toward the door. He barely had time to finish his sentence before she swung it open, phone still pressed to her ear. Shaking his head, he stepped past her. She held up a finger to her lips, silently urging him to be quiet. "I'll call you tomorrow," he whispered before walking away. She gave him a quick nod and shut the door behind him. Her heart pounded as she listened to the ringing on the other end. "Pick up, Jake, please pick up," she muttered under her breath. Straight to voicemail. Lena swallowed hard, then spoke, her voice trembling. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about our anniversary. I'm on my way home now, and we'll go out for dinner. Please wait for me. I love you." Ending the call, she wiped away her tears, started the car, and sped toward home, cursing herself the entire way. When she pulled into the garage, she noticed Jake's van wasn't there. "He's not home yet," she thought, relief washing over her. "I have time to shower, to clean myself up, to wash away all these mistakes." Stepping inside, she took a deep breath. "From now on, I'll be the best wife in the world. I won't let my body make choices for me ever again. I'll give him the family he wants. I'll stop working late. I'll do whatever it takes to be a responsible mom." She hurried up the stairs toward their bedroom, her thoughts racing. "I'll have to live with what I've done for the rest of my life. Maybe I'll see a therapist, get these feelings out, figure out how to move forward. But no matter what, I love Jake, and I'll never hurt him again. I'll give him everything, my time, my attention, whatever he needs. I'll let him know I'm going off the pill. This will be my anniversary gift to him," Rachel thought as she stepped into the bathroom. She undressed quickly and let the warm water wash over her, trying to cleanse herself of the guilt that weighed on her. Later, as she stood in front of the mirror drying her hair, something felt off. She glanced around. Jake's things were missing. Her stomach tightened. Frantically, she checked the bathroom cabinets, the drawers, everywhere. Nothing. With a towel wrapped around her, she ran to the closet, flung open the doors, and froze. His side was empty. Oh no. A choked sob escaped her as she stumbled downstairs, her pulse pounding in her ears. That's when she saw it. A single piece of paper on the kitchen counter. On top of it, Jake's wedding ring. Tears blurred her vision as she reached for the note, her hands shaking. She read the words, and the breath was knocked out of her. "Happy anniversary. Next time, bring your lover home instead of sneaking around your office desk. You can use our bed." Rachel gasped. Her vision went black. She collapsed to the floor. She woke in the middle of the night, gasping for air. The second she could move, she grabbed her phone and dialed Jake's number. Straight to voicemail. Her voice broke as she left a message. "Please, Jake, come home. I made a mistake. Please, let's talk. I'm sorry. I love you. Only you." But the night passed without an answer. She never slept. She only cried. The next morning, Rachel called William Sullivan and asked for a few days off. From the tone of her voice, her boss knew something was wrong. "I can only give you 1 day," he told her. "But we'll talk in person soon." After hanging up, she immediately called Jake's workplace. "He took vacation time," they informed her. "He called in early this morning." Rachel's heart sank. He was gone. For the rest of the day, she kept calling him, leaving voicemail after voicemail. Nothing. When she finally returned to work, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight to Sullivan's office and asked to see him. Once inside, she spilled everything. By the time she was done, she was in tears. He studied her for a long moment before finally saying, "I'll turn a blind eye to what happened in the office, even though it's against company rules." Then, meeting her eyes, he added, "You're a talented lawyer, Rachel. You're sharp, and you do good work here. This firm has invested in you, and you have a bright future here," William Sullivan continued. "You made a mistake, but you deserve a second chance, at least as far as the company is concerned." He leaned forward, his tone more serious. "But if you want to make partner one day, your record has to be spotless. No client is going to trust a lawyer who's betrayed someone in their personal life. I hope you understand that." Rachel nodded weakly, wiping at her damp cheeks. "And what about your husband?" he asked. She shook her head. "I don't know. I really don't. He turned off his phone, and I have no idea where he is." Her voice broke. "I don't want to lose him. I made a terrible mistake." Tears welled up again, and she covered her face with her hands. Sullivan sighed. "Crying won't fix anything, Rachel." He gave her a long, measured look before saying, "Listen, sitting at home doing nothing is only going to make this worse. I think you should keep working. It'll help distract you." Then, after a pause, he added, I have a cousin in the police department. I'll ask him to check all the motels in the city." Rachel's head snapped up. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan." She wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. 2 days later, a young man walked into the firm and approached the receptionist. "I need to speak with Mrs. Parker," he said. She glanced at the schedule. "She's in a meeting with clients. She won't be available for at least 2 hours. You can leave a message or wait." The man shook his head. "It's about Mr. Parker." At that, the receptionist immediately called Sullivan. A few minutes later, Rachel and her boss rushed into the reception area. Her heart was pounding. "I'm Rachel Parker. What happened to my husband?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he held out a manila envelope. "You've been served." Rachel's body went cold. "There's also a restraining order," he added before turning and walking away. Her vision blurred, her legs wobbling beneath her. Sullivan caught her just before she collapsed. "Sit down," he ordered, signaling to the receptionist. "Get her a glass of water." Later, back in his office, Sullivan flipped through the divorce papers. "He's citing infidelity," he told her. Rachel sat motionless, hands clasped in her lap. "He's not asking for anything. Not the house, not alimony. The only thing he took from your joint account was the lawyer's fee." He exhaled, closing the folder. "All he wants is to walk away." Rachel buried her face in her hands, sobbing. "Do you think he has proof?" Sullivan asked. She shook her head. "I don't think so." Sullivan turned his laptop toward her. "Let me show you something." He clicked a few keys, and a security video began to play. "I pulled the footage from the building's cameras for both nights he was here." Rachel's eyes widened as she watched the screen. There was Jake, walking into the building, carrying a plastic bag with Chinese takeout written on it. Right in front of him was the waiter, talking on his phone. Then, the elevator footage appeared. Jake stood behind the man, his expression darkening as he listened to whatever was being said. The video switched to the hallway. Jake was kneeling on the floor, tying his shoe, or at least pretending to. His eyes locked onto the waiter as he entered the office. Then, the moment that shattered Rachel completely. Jake, sitting against the wall, crying. Her breath caught in her throat. Sullivan quietly shut the laptop. "He didn't deserve this," he said. "He was bringing you dinner. It was your anniversary." Tears streamed down Rachel's face. Sullivan leaned forward. "Now, tell me, what do you want to do?" Her voice trembled. "I want my husband back. I need to talk to him, explain everything, beg for his forgiveness. I'll do whatever it takes to earn his trust again." Sullivan sighed. "The problem is, he doesn't want to see you." Rachel's heart clenched. "What if I meet him at his lawyer's office? Would he agree to that?" Sullivan hesitated before nodding. "First things first, we'll represent you. I'll personally handle your case and do everything I can to help." Rachel wiped her face. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan." He leaned back in his chair. The lawyer representing him, Derek Wong, is fresh out of law school. He went for the cheapest attorney he could find. A hint of sadness flickered in Rachel's eyes. Sullivan continued. "We know how to handle someone like him. This will be a learning experience for him, and in the meantime, I'll see if we can get Judge O'Hara assigned to the case." Rachel frowned. "How?" Sullivan smirked. "I have connections. O'Hara never rushes to grant divorces. He's a devout Christian, and he always orders counseling first." He leaned forward, his voice steady. "I'll make sure he assigns you the maximum number of sessions. Then, you'll have a real chance to talk to Jake." "That would give you all the time you need to talk to your husband," Sullivan said, "and maybe convince him to come back home." Rachel leaned forward. "Can we get this Derek Wong to set up a meeting? I need to talk to Jake as soon as possible." Sullivan grabbed the business card that had been pinned to the divorce documents and dialed the number. "Good morning. May I speak with Mr. Derek Wong, please? This is William Sullivan from Sullivan and Gumboldt." As he waited on hold, he glanced at Rachel and gave her a reassuring wink. "Ah, hello, Mr. Wong," he said when the call connected. "Our firm is representing Mrs. Rachel Parker in the case of Parker versus Parker. Our client would like to arrange a meeting with Mr. Parker at your office." He listened for a few moments, his expression hardening. "I see," he said. "Well, no problem. My client will be fighting this divorce in court. See you there. Have a nice day." As he hung up, Rachel's stomach twisted. "What happened?" she asked, her voice tense. Sullivan sighed. "Your husband has already told his attorney that he won't be meeting with you. No discussions." Rachel swallowed hard. "Did your cousin find out where he's staying?" "He's not at any motel," Sullivan explained. "He made some discreet inquiries and believes Jake is staying with one of his co-workers." He leaned forward, giving her a firm look. "Rachel, listen to me. Don't try to see him. There's a restraining order in place. If you do something reckless, it could backfire on you." Rachel nodded, but the ache in her chest didn't ease. The following weeks were unbearable. Every evening, Rachel came home to an empty house, the silence pressing in on her. She missed Jake desperately. At night, she clung to his pillow, breathing in what little was left of his scent, praying for the day she'd finally get the chance to face him again. She just needed time. She put all her hope in Judge O'Hara, praying he would recommend counseling. She prepared herself for that moment, choosing her words carefully, rehearsing what she'd say, practicing the soft, steady tone she'd use. And most of all, she promised herself she would take full responsibility. No excuses. No justifications. Just the truth. 3 months later, the day finally came. The courtroom was tense as the case was called. Judge O'Hara presided over the hearing. Rachel sat on one side, surrounded by her legal team, including Sullivan and a few of his colleagues. On the other side of the room sat Jake. It was the first time she had seen him since he walked out. Her heart clenched painfully. On the other side of the courtroom, Jake sat beside his young attorney, his expression unreadable. He never once looked in Rachel's direction. But she couldn't take her eyes off him. Every part of her ached to run to him, to throw her arms around him, to kiss him and tell him that he was the only one she had ever truly loved. Yet, as the judge spoke and the case unfolded, it became clear. Jake believed this was the end. He was convinced that soon he would no longer be a married man. Then, after reviewing the arguments, Judge O'Hara leaned forward and made his ruling. "I am ordering 20 counseling sessions," he declared. "After that, I will make my final decision based on the counselor's report." Rachel's legal team exchanged relieved glances. A wave of joy washed over her. But before the judge could finalize the ruling, Jake's attorney, Derek Wong, suddenly stood up. "Your Honor, before you strike the gavel, my client would like to say something." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to Jake. Judge O'Hara studied him for a moment before nodding. "All right, Mr. Parker. But keep it brief." Jake rose from his seat, standing tall and composed. His voice was steady, his gaze locked onto the judge. "Your Honor, I've made my decision. I no longer wish to proceed with the divorce. I'm staying married." A stunned silence swept through the courtroom. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The judge gave him a firm nod. "That's the best decision you could make, Mr. Parker. Now, I expect both of you to sit down, work through your differences, and find happiness again." Then, with a final glance at the courtroom, he raised his gavel. Case closed. The gavel struck the desk. Rachel jumped from her seat, overwhelmed with joy. She rushed toward Jake, desperate to finally be close to him. For the first time that day, he turned to face her. But instead of warmth, his face was hard, his eyes burning with resentment. He lifted a hand, a silent, firm motion for her to stop. Rachel froze. Then Jake turned back toward the judge. "Your Honor," he said, his voice calm but sharp, "I have 2 legal questions." The judge sighed, already irritated. "Mr. Parker, there is no longer a divorce case. Take your wife home and focus on rebuilding your future. If you have legal matters, consult your attorney." Jake didn't back down. "I just need to know," he continued. Is there any law in this state or country that forces me to live under the same roof as my unfaithful wife? And second, can I be prosecuted if I refuse to be intimate with her? A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge O'Hara's expression darkened. Mr. Parker, spouses are expected to live together, and intimacy is a fundamental part of marriage. Rachel felt her stomach twist. This wasn't over. Not even close. Rachel sank into the nearest chair, shaking her head as fresh tears streamed down her face. Sullivan stepped beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Jake," he said, his voice calm but firm, "there's no law forcing you to stay in the same house as your wife. You're free to leave. Go anywhere in the world if that's what you want. You don't have kids to worry about, and she earns more than you, so you don't even need to think about supporting her." Derek Wong smirked. "Maybe Alaska or somewhere down south," he joked. Jake's patience snapped. He nearly shouted, spinning on his heel and storming out. Rachel jumped up, racing after him. She caught up to him in the hallway, reaching for his hand. "Jake, please," she begged. He yanked his arm away and kept walking. Her voice cracked. "Don't do this. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. But I swear to you, I love you, and only you. Please, just give me one more chance." Jake didn't stop. He didn't even acknowledge her. Rachel followed close behind, her voice desperate. "We can get past this. I know you love me, Jake, or you wouldn't be this angry. It was a moment of weakness. Please, just forgive me." Still, no response. She tried again. "I'll quit my job if that's what it takes. We'll spend more time together. We can start the family you always wanted. I swear, I'll be the best wife." Jake spun around suddenly, his face full of fury. "Promises?" He cut her off. "You made one at the altar, remember? And now you're making another one. Then there'll be a third, a fourth. How many more, Rachel?" His voice rose. "I don't trust you any more." Rachel's heart pounded. Jake let out a bitter laugh. "Am I angry? Yeah, but not just at you, at myself. Because I'm the one who made the real mistake." His jaw tightened. "I should never have fallen in love with you." Rachel gasped, shaking her head. "No, don't say that," she whispered, reaching up to touch his face. But he grabbed her wrists, pushing them away in frustration. "I shouldn't have proposed to you," he continued. "And when you told me you wanted to be a lawyer, I should have walked away right then and there." Rachel collapsed to her knees, wrapping her arms around his legs. "Please, Jake," she sobbed. "Don't do this." He stared down at her, his face cold. "You disrespected me, Rachel." His voice dropped, but his words cut deep. "And I keep asking myself, where did I go wrong? Was it something I did?" Jake's voice was raw, his frustration breaking through. "Did I fail you in some way? Is that why you needed someone else?" Rachel shook her head furiously, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, Jake. It had nothing to do with you. It was me. My mistake. My weakness." She reached for him again. "If you really love me, you'll forgive me. You'll come home." Jake crouched down, his face just inches from hers. "If you really love me," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "then you'll let me go." Rachel's hands trembled as she tried to hold on to him, but he pulled away. Without another word, he turned and walked off, leaving her sitting there on the cold floor, sobbing. Outside, Jake made his way to his van. As he climbed in, he exhaled, gripping the steering wheel. "Alaska or the South?" he muttered to himself. "Guess I'll have to flip a coin." And with that, he drove off, leaving everything behind. And that's the end of today's story. Did it turn out the way you expected? Or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And if this story kept you hooked, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day. So go ahead, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.